Hey there, everyone. Before we start the show, we here at Popcorn for Dinner want to give a big shout out to our good friend and illustrator, Kyle Kedzik, for helping us celebrate making it to 40 episodes with some brand new custom artwork, which is now up on all of our social media accounts. We love it. We hope you love it. And if you're looking for some new custom artwork for your business or project, you can look him up on Facebook at Kyle Kedzik, or even drop him a line at kylekedzik@gmail.com. That's KYLEKEDZUCH@gmail.com. Merry Christmas, everybody. On the day that you're hearing this or afterwards, it is not Christmas yet. It's not even Christmas Eve yet. It's Christmas Eve. But when you hear this, it'll be Christmas, and it's the best time to listen to this one because the movie that we watched for the last week of December of Christmas Movies Month is a bona fide American Christmas comedy.
That I had never seen before.
Yeah, that you had somehow never seen before, which is fine because while we were watching it, I noticed so much stuff where I was like, I guess I haven't seen this movie in forever because I've forgotten about so much. So it's like, it's a little bit on par of like kind of seeing it for the first time, like other than a handful of like really recognizable moments where it's like you might have even heard reference to it outside of this movie, so you're like, oh yeah, no, yeah, that thing, you know, like Shitter's Full, like that's
finally seeing that scene
exactly. So it's like the stuff that you
just
already
gave it
kind
away.
of know. Yeah, but yeah, the movie that we watched for this week, for the last week of Christmas Movies Month, is the 1989 American family comedy film National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Coming into it, sort of not knowing much, and then you coming into it knowing even less. At the end of it, I wound up having a really good time.
I did too.
I thought it was, I was afraid that it was going to be so 80s. I was really afraid that it was going to hit a lot of like, kind of stuff. Once I realized, like, once the fucking animated sequence started at the beginning, and I was like, did not remember this at all. If this had been a trivia question, and it was like, which of these movies started with an animated title sequence? And it was like this and Elf, I would have been like, Elf?
Yeah.
It's gotta be Elf, right? There's no way it's Christmas Vacation. Totally is. And unfortunately, as okay as the song is, the like Christmas Vacation song that they play for it, it's a bummer that this is the only movie in the series that doesn't use Holiday Road. And it's like, but that's the best time to use it. It's the holiday. Come on. Oh, missing such an opportunity there.
Yeah.
It's a super bummer. And especially because I love that fucking song.
Well,
it's such a good song.
I mean, I get why they didn't use it because it wasn't the Griswolds that were actually out on vacation.
Yeah, they weren't on the road, so to speak. But it's like you could have put it over the beginning when they're going to get the tree. Like that was kind of their vacation. that was their trip.
That was,
that year.
There you go.
Was out to get the tree.
That was not Illinois.
No. I actually read, I think it was Colorado.
The house and like the neighborhood itself easily could be Illinois. I don't know if it is, but it could be.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. It looks like it was shot in Colorado and some of California.
Okay, so on a set somewhere.
Yeah, so it wasn't really, but I agree. It did really look very Illinoisian.
Yeah, with the exception of what they tried to play off Warrant Mountains.
Oh, yeah. Like, this is just a really tall hill.
Yeah.
The top is like a foot out of frame, but trust us.
Yeah.
It is definitely not an entire mountain.
Yeah.
Obviously starring, as they all do, Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo, who are fantastic. Like, truly fantastic. Both of those two together is a classic comedy husband and wife pairing. You know what I mean? Like that really should be remembered among like really great like duos. You know what I mean? Like Ricky and Lucy and fucking what were their names? George Burns and Gracie Allen or something, like way back in the day, you know? Like they're
Oh,
so good.
I absolutely agree.
Like it's almost surprising how charming Chevy Chase can be when he wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
I've heard so many stories and even seen like interviews and things with him. By all
Yeah.
accounts, he's an asshole. Like there's just too much overwhelming evidence.
Yeah.
But man, like him as that everyman
Mm-hmm.
dad who's been like so ingrained with tradition
Yeah.
that he just drags his family through hell trying to do the perfect thing, basically bringing on his own fall by trying to make it too
Yeah.
perfect. Like
Yeah.
it's such a positive character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's wholesome to a fault.
Yeah, exactly. And that makes it so much better when he breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Like essentially all of the movies, I'm assuming, for European Vacation, because I mean, why wouldn't it?
Yeah. What else is the plot?
Yeah, but like those moments when he finally does freak out about something
Mm-hmm.
is so great because of how great he is at playing like wholesome and holding it in and
Mm-hmm.
repressing, and you know what I mean? Like he's so good at that when the top finally just comes off of it.
Yeah.
It's a fucking treat. Like those rants at the end of the movie by him are like legendary movie rants.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
holy crap. The one fucking line that I can't believe I didn't remember, like, or that wasn't like something that was in my head every single day ever since I saw this movie for the first time, is the hallelujah, holy shit, where's the Tylenol? It's so good. And I'm sure anybody listening to this who's watched that movie a billion times and loves it to death is like,
yeah.
duh. Like, what? Why? Of course that line. But to me, it was like, oh my God, what a great line.
Yeah.
Like, not like, you know, that great line that you should know already.
Yeah. See, I'm sitting over here enjoying the Merry Christmas, kiss my ass, kiss his ass, kiss your ass, Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah, that was great too. That whole, like, that's such an American, I mean, maybe not, I'm not necessarily a connoisseur of like foreign films and stuff, but that feels like the like quintessential American working man like drama section of a comedy, or like the place where a lot of tension and like anxiety comes from, is that Christmas bonus plot line
Yeah.
that I feel like is used in everything.
Yeah.
And so it almost like it's perfectly at home here. You know what I mean? Like this movie, for lack of a better like phrasing to it, doesn't necessarily have a plot, because it's just like Clark wants the perfect Christmas,
Yeah.
and
This is his attempt.
yeah, exactly. And like every family in the world, that's an impossibility. Like there's
Oh, yeah.
no way to ever do that.
It is completely impossible.
Yeah, completely impossible. If you think that everything is perfect at your Christmas, just know that someone there is thinking about how much they hate it.
Yes.
Just not like actually verbalizing it. Just know that. But like that is such like the definitive Christmas story. Obviously not discounting the movie called A Christmas Story.
Right.
But like that
Now
can
we get
apply to all kids in some way. You know, in your life it wasn't the BB gun, it was this or whatever, but you
It was the
relate to
battery
that.
operated car, the like, you know, Barbie Jeep car that you could sit in and ride around the block. I wanted one so bad.
I wanted the Megazord. The one that you put them all together. That is the greatest.
That
Didn't
is-
have one.
no.
But then this one is much more the adult, like everyone can relate to it in some way. Obviously, it's still just like it's a white middle class family's Christmas. So it's not necessarily literally everyone's Christmas.
Right.
But it's like the way that the characters are drawn and how they like interact with each other. It's like, I'm sure, even if it's not a cousin, you can find your cousin Eddie in your family, you know, or, you know, all those characters have a real life parallel to
Yeah.
practically everybody watching it. Like, oh, that's totally my aunt. That's
Yeah.
totally my cousin. That's totally, you know. So it's one of those movies where it kind of fucks it for every other Christmas movie out there. Cause it's like, now you got to find a slant. Now you
Yeah.
can't just make a movie that's just a guy trying to have a good Christmas, because Christmas Vacation has done it and it's perfect. Like practically perfect. There's so little that I would truly cut from this movie. Most of it is that scene where he's talking to the girl at the store.
Yeah.
And like that was the one moment that felt super 80s of just like, so he can't stop saying like boobs
Yeah.
and breasts and other sexual innuendos
Yeah.
while he's talking to her. And I was like, that's probably the only bit that I would be like, you know what? Really unnecessary. And the callback later isn't even really worth it.
Yeah.
Where it's like you could have that pool sequence and have that girl on the diving board. Like that all flies as far as I'm concerned. Like that's, of course, he's a middle-aged
Yeah.
middle-aged-ish man in suburbia. It's like, oh, I have a pool, there'd be a hot lady near it, and you don't need to know that was the girl from
Yeah.
the counter earlier. You could cut that part and never know.
That could be like your son's teacher. Like, it doesn't even matter.
Exactly. Any imaginary person, anyone that he's ever thought about.
Yeah. Like, it's
just-
already an imaginary thing.
Yeah, really. You don't need to know that. But honestly, that was kind of the only really bad bit in it. And it wasn't even necessarily really bad. It was just like, okay. And then it kept going. And it was
Yeah.
just like one or two little slip ups with him being like, oh man, is fine. But when like the scene just keeps going and going, and it's like, okay, I get it. The only good thing was the very, very end. Like they could have cut a lot of the middle out and left that like sort of punch at the end of like, 'tis the season to be merry. Like, oh, that's my name. No shit. And then cutting. Like, that's a good ending to it.
Yeah.
They just needed to tighten it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Take out a couple of them because it wound up just getting like,
This is
just,
awkward.
yeah, just repetitive and awkward and like, okay, I know this doesn't go anywhere. So can we just move along?
The scene where everyone arrives all at once, that is my nightmare. Like, that is just way too much family all at once.
Yeah, really.
And no one gets along. So they're fighting right off the bat.
Yeah, that's unbearable.
Yeah. I
like the way they do it too. Like it's so hectic and like the like really tense music in the background while everyone's like coming inside and talking to everybody and this and that. It's just that like, oh God. Oh,
God.
it's happening. It's beginning. Here
everyone
it is.
get out of the hallway, please.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
Exactly. It did like obviously it's way funnier if it's just a big fucking jumble of angry arguing people coming up to the door. But it's just like, really, they all came together, or did they all get there at exactly the same time?
It seemed like
Like there were like two cars worth
Yeah.
of people, and yet they somehow all arrived at the same time.
I don't know how they arrived at the same time because they were fighting over whose car goes in the garage.
Oh yeah.
Like,
It's like, did you
wait.
race here?
Yeah.
Like, you must have. In terms of the cast, I mean, obviously Chevy and Beverly, great. Juliette Lewis as Audrey was fun. I liked her bit. Like, she's sort of the like irritable teenager who doesn't
Yeah.
like things. But I like the fact that she was kind of on Clark's side, though.
Yeah.
I wrote later on, like, about the lights or something. Like, I'm sure it'd be real cool, Dad, or like whatever. Like, she gives him some sort of like actual encouraging and not like a cutting teenage remark that's
Yeah, it
supposed to like
was,
get to you or something.
like it still looks really cool even if they're not lit up.
Yeah,
or something
exactly.
Like, that. Yeah.
Like and having that, I wrote into my notes right then. I was just like, oh, kids that aren't awful. This is
Yeah.
nice. I like this. and fucking baby Johnny Galecki as Russ. Holy crap, dude. I was thrilled because it was just like, oh my God, that's right. He was a child actor. Like I never
he
watched.
was a child.
Yeah, yeah, obviously. But like I never saw anything that he was in as a kid, really. Like I think he
Yeah.
was on a show or something. I know he was on Roseanne, maybe as more like a teenager, but not so much as like
Yeah.
a kid or whatever. But I was just like, oh my God, look at how tiny he is. This tiny little Johnny Galecki. This movie's got a couple of Popcorn for Dinner alumnus. Johnny Galecki, obviously, from I Know What You Did Last Summer. Randy Quaid as Cousin Eddie, who's
Yes.
just like one of the most famous fucking comedy roles in the history of the world. But he was in Days of Thunder his like serious role where he was the guy
Oh,
who like
right.
sponsored the team or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, why isn't he acting all fucking goofy? He's supposed to be super goofy, isn't he?
What did you do to him?
Yeah.
Damn it, Tom Cruise.
I had 1000% forgotten about Julia Louis-Dreyfus and her husband, that whole neighbor thing.
Yeah.
Like after the first couple of cutaways to them, I was just like, they're not in this a lot, are they? Like, do they cut all these scenes on TV or something? Like, why don't I remember this at all?
We do. I believe it was the special edition that we watched.
Well, I mean, they're kind of integral to the end. So that's what
right.
made me realize that I was like, do they cut it all out? Like, is that something that happens? You know, like for TV, they'll just sort of cut entire subplots sometimes because it's like, we need to fit it into a fucking time frame.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's possible that maybe I've never seen this movie on anything but TV and therefore I've never seen their scenes. But then, yeah, at the very end, like the cops and all that shit is like directly entwined with what's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe they are in every version, and I just
forgot about
yeah,
them?
completely forgot about it. I mean, we got the special edition DVD, but I don't think it was a different cut of the movie. I think
Okay.
the special edition is because it has a lot of features.
Gotcha.
Because on here it says it's 97 minutes, and I was like, yeah, it said 1 hour and 37 minutes on the back, so
Yeah.
that's
All right.
that lines up.
That checks out.
Yeah, but she was great. Obviously in her tiny little bits. Brian Doyle Murray as his boss. I was just like, man, that dude, he is, for one, he's so fantastic. Like, he is amazing in everything. And that voice is so iconic. He is such the perfect, like, boss character who can still be funny himself, you know,
Yes.
where it's like not just like he's an asshole and that's why it's funny.
Well,
it's like, no, he's pretty funny too, just
yeah.
how he is.
I recognize him from Raising Hope.
Yeah.
Like as the Hollywood executive or whatever.
Yeah, basically a similar kind of role.
Yeah,
like the
essentially.
big higher up guy who doesn't give a shit about
Yeah.
things underneath him or whatever. But yeah, he's wonderful. I didn't really recognize most of the parents. You know, like they were all clearly like actors and actresses from the like previous generation even. So the fact that this movie came out the year I was born means a lot of those people are in nothing that I've really seen or cared about.
Except-
Only one, Doris Roberts.
Yes.
Oh my God. So happy to see her.
Yes.
I don't even give a shit that she's basically the same lady in everything I've ever seen her in because that it's perfect. She is so perfect for it that it's like, why would you ever mess with it?
Yeah.
As soon as you see her, you know, you're in that zone.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, oh, yep. Oh, that lady.
Yes.
I know that lady.
Yes.
Like,
The critical mother-in-law.
yeah, exactly. Like, it's such a, she plays it so goddamn well.
Yeah, she does. Her being overly critical towards the beginning was actually another like nice moment with Audrey.
Right? Yeah, the daughter.
Yeah. Because she, like, the first time he gets it all together and plugs it in and it doesn't turn on,
Yeah.
she, like, says something about him, like, wasting his time. And Audrey defends him, like, he tried.
Yeah, so, like it just little bits like that. It wasn't even like she had a full, like, monologue. But like, hey, everyone's real tough on my dad, but he tries real hard. And all of it. It's like, no, just little moments of like, oh, that kid actually kind of likes her dad.
Yeah.
Instead of every other fucking teenager we've seen for the past like couple of months in other John Hughes movies written by John Hughes. This one is.
Yes. I believe produced as well, or
Yeah, because it was like Hughes Pictures, Hughes Entertainment,
There you
the
go.
production company.
Yeah.
Based on a story called Christmas 59, a short story that he wrote for the National Lampoon. I was able to track it down.
Oh.
And there's a bit where the one lady shows up and brings a present and somebody hears it making noise.
Mm-hmm.
In this story, it's a dog,
Okay.
not a cat. It's a dachshund that's in the box. And so it's the dachshund that like blows up like the cat does in the movie.
Yeah.
So like that thing that happens essentially. Very little else is really comparable. Especially because, and what's so fucking crazy about it, I didn't really look when this came out. I'm assuming that this was written before 16 Candles
Okay.
because there is a character that is essentially Long Duck Dong.
Oh, geez.
There's a horribly racist caricature of an Asian kid who's living with the grandparents who comes to Christmas.
Oh, my God.
So I will say this for this story and Christmas Vacation and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God 16 Candles took that bullet.
Yeah.
That he went and was like, oh, you know what's funny? That fucking the immigrant character. I'll bring that into this movie.
The grandparents are coming.
Yeah.
Bring them with.
Exactly. And I'm glad he used it in that so it could be like, all right, fine, whatever. Like that movie lives in its own thing and Long Duck Dong doesn't necessarily like ruin it completely. But it's like, it's nice that this movie avoided that.
Yeah.
And is pretty overall like wholesome and funny and sweet and not overly like ugh, or like cruel or mean or nasty.
Yeah.
Which is really great because like in my head I was kind of afraid of that because I was like I remember like a cat dies and like and you know and I always think of like the one thing that I fucking hate about Vacation is that they kill the dog. That he has it tied to the bumper and then just drives off. And it's like, I don't find it funny.
Yeah.
It's just a little too cruel
Yeah.
for it to be really funny. And it's just like the one real blemish on that. But I was afraid that it was going to be a little harsher than it was. Like I was worried that there would be more like, one of the grandparents croaks or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or something really awful like that.
It's not Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah. Yeah, no grandpas are doing heroin in this movie.
That we know of.
It was PG-13, so it's not even like it was like expected to be like super raunchy, like, oh man.
Yeah. And it's probably just mainly because of the nudity.
Yeah, the very
and then
brief.
a little bit of
and he does say
language.
fuck.
There's one fuck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
there's
says
the
fuck.
one fuck.
They say shit a few times.
Yeah. No blood.
Well, no, I guess there isn't. I was like,
There's-
the squirrel goes after people, but I don't think it draws blood.
No, I don't think so. It just clings to Clark's back.
Yeah. I love the panic that happens when that fucking squirrel comes out. Like it starts off somewhat reasonable, where it's like, yeah, it's a squirrel from a tree from outside.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be bitten by it either. I'd probably get out of the room.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to like people fully like full on fainting because of it, it's like, okay, look, like I get being like, let's get out of this room.
Yeah.
But you are way too fucking like sheltered from things if the sight of a squirrel is enough for like, dropping.
That did have a great little moment where Clark was like telling different people what to do, and he goes to look for Rusty and he like just looks straight and like calls for Rusty and then has to look down when Rusty's like, right here, Dad.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that happens in every movie. He's like,
Okay.
Russ! And he's like, I'm right here, Dad. Like, oh, right, okay. Like, I'm almost certain that that's in all of them.
Well, I loved the execution of it in this
one. There were so many like classic joke moments, like specifically like the squirrel in the tree, which actually I did just remember there's a bird in the tree in the story, in the short story, not a squirrel.
Squirrel is more cinematic.
Yeah, definitely. And it can like leap out. I mean, that shot of it just like coming at him
Yeah.
is pretty great. But like that sequence, the sequence where he unleashes the tree in the first place, that's hysterical. And I completely forgot about the absolutely like way funnier follow-up jokes. Because like the tree, like you can tell like the way that it looks like such garbage, just like waiting to be like cut open and everything. It's like, God, this is the worst idea.
Yeah.
And he's just like, looks great, doesn't it? Like, oh my God, what a dad.
Yeah.
And like, and then, you could see it coming that like, okay, he's going to cut it and it's going to be like, it's
Everywhere.
going to be horrifying. And the fact that it like flies out windows, like punches out windows, just like throws people backwards. And then when it like settles and they cut to that wide shot and the tree is like almost more than half of the frame.
Yeah.
So fucking funny to look at. But the follow-up, Clark is sticky with sap in bed.
Yes.
That might be my favorite sequence in the movie.
The fact that she doesn't acknowledge it, she just accepts it and starts helping him. Like,
It was the fact that like they're talking about, just, Christmas and the family coming, all that kind of stuff. And you're just like slightly noticing that his fingers are kind of sticking to that magazine, and just how much how out of hand it gets so quickly. And then the final moment of pulling the chain on the lamp and just dragging it into bed with him. Oh my God. I can tell you that I had no idea that was coming. Like, absolutely
Yeah.
not a thought in my head that was how that scene was going to end. And it fucking got me.
Yeah.
That was so funny. And it was like, again, just a perfect example of those two.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Chevy Chase playing it so well and Beverly D'Angelo just like no selling it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the amount of talent it takes.
To hold it in.
Exact. Oh my
Yes.
God. Like it is like that is the thing that I feel like people don't recognize the straight man in comedy stuff for enough.
Yeah.
It's like it's, just, being like, oh, he's a good actor, so he can act the straight part while the funny guy is being funny. And that's harder to be funny. And it's like, do you know how fucking hard it is to like
Yeah.
give David Spade some fucking credit having to stare Chris Farley in the face for like 5 years straight of like SNL and movies and all that shit and just being able to hold it together.
Yeah.
Like, holy
Not
shit.
laugh at Chris Farley. Like,
Yeah. Who's not only like being funny, but trying to make you laugh specifically. And I can only imagine that Chevy Chase is probably the same way.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that he that those takes got increasingly bizarre and he just made it bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, that legit. Probably my favorite sequence in the movie.
Yeah.
It's just so and the fact that it's just one shot too. That's the brilliance of it. Just one fucking shot, the two of them in bed and just go.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So good. And then of course, the the sequence when Eddie shows up because I had forgotten like how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it was like, okay, and then at some point, fucking Randy Quaid's got to show up because he's Eddie and he's in this movie and all that. Like he's got to fucking show up at some point. And the fact that it is in the middle of a scene, completely unacknowledged, until Clark is suddenly just like, Eddie?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was like, because when he goes and he puts his arm around a guy from behind, and it's obviously it's fucking Randy Quaid and everything, but like from that shot you can't tell exactly. And the like hat and coat he's wearing look just different than anyone we've seen yet. So you're just like, who the hell is Clark talking to right now? Like he just threw his arm around someone who's talking to him, and then you realize that he doesn't even realize who he's talking to.
He's just so happy.
Yeah, and it's just like the scene has not acknowledged him in any way. Like somehow they've pulled up in that RV.
Yeah.
And parked it in the driveway and gotten out and walked and looked at the lights with everybody and nobody has noticed.
Yeah.
Like that is what is so fucking funny about that to me. It's just like, where did they come from? Like that it's so brilliant. Like it's so much funnier than if there was like you hear the RV coming and everyone going like, oh no.
Yeah.
Here he comes. Like the fact that it's literally just like, oh, fuck. No.
He's here.
Wait a minute.
Shit.
Eddie, no. It's so good. There were a couple of moments that were kind of like that fake intro for Eddie, where it was like, oh, in just like a couple of years, I bet you they would have cut some of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like it was 89. If this had come out in like 92, I bet you they would have cut that sound effect when Clark realizes that he didn't bring a saw to cut the tree down. He's like, Dad, did you even bring a saw? And it's like, doing. It's like, I bet you into the 90s, they would have been like, just let his face show that.
Yeah.
It's clearly he's realizing what's happened. The audience doesn't need a gong or some shit to let them know what's happened. Like, just look at Chevy's face.
Yeah.
It's perfect. So it's like, that was a tiny little thing where it's like, oh, come on. You can do better than that.
Also, not to nitpick, but there's no way that they're getting that tree out of the ground with just the 4 humans.
Yeah, I mean that is pretty hysterical though. Like the idea that there's like imagining them driving that tree home. Like how did that happen? And that whole opening sequence where they're driving and he gets into the altercation with the like truckers and stuff. It was like that whole bit wasn't necessarily hysterical. I liked when he goes under the truck and fucking Ellen tells him that I don't want to spend the holidays dead. Just such a great line. And you know what it reminded me of? As soon as she said that, I was looking at them and I was like, oh my God, it's like Bert and Virginia. in Raising
Yes.
Hope very
Yeah.
much, whereas like the well-meaning but dopey dad
Mm-hmm.
and the mom who's ridiculous in her own way,
Yes.
who's like trying to hold it down. But it's like I could hear Martha Plimpton say that line,
Yeah.
but I don't want to spend the holidays dead. So good. Is that show on anything right now?
I believe it's on either Netflix or Hulu.
Okay. Just in case people out there are listening and like, what, Raising Hope? Watch that fucking show.
Yes.
That is a hysterical show.
Martha Plimpton and Garrett Dillahunt.
Yeah. Super fucking good. But I think my favorite bit of that whole like them getting run off the road is just that great slow-mo shot of the like trees sign and then the car flying into frame and fucking taking it out is like such a fucking Griswold moment.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's so I love how much that is like an American culture thing.
Yeah.
Like I was reading like on Wikipedia they talk about how Griswold house became a term. Where it's like if you see a house that's way over decked out for Christmas,
It's a Griswold
it's a
house.
Griswold house.
Nice.
It's like, yep, that's exactly.
Love it. Love it.
Love the fucking Griswold.
I'm going to use that term
Mhm.
going forward.
It's good. I mean, there was a line that I wrote down that I thought was really, oh, God. Sorry, I thought it was hysterical. The first line from Russ in the whole movie was, Dad, can you explain again what we're doing? And I was like, whoever in the world says that, unless you're in a movie and you want to have the character now tell you what you're
Yeah.
doing. I was like, that's the laziest way to get into it, but I very much just like, okay, fine. But no, the line that I really liked was one of his coworkers. He tells Clark that you're the last true family man.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, there's something so fucking great about Clark Griswold.
Yes.
There really is in terms of being like a lead character. Like obviously Beverly D'Angelo, Ellen is fantastic and a huge part of why the movies are great.
Yeah.
But in terms of just having that dad, that specific dad who's like, I need to be the one who makes everything perfect and we have to have the perfect vacation or Christmas or whatever it is. Usually it's a vacation because the series is called Vacation. I think that's kind of why I like this one a lot.
Yeah.
Is because it kind of like hits a very specific laneway. It's not just like, okay, now it's vacation, but they're in Europe, or now it's vacation, but instead of going to California, they're going to Las Vegas. In this case, it's like, no, this is the Griswold house. This is where they live. This is just their life trying to get Christmas together, but it still carries that same feel of like the guy who wants to make everything perfect, but just doesn't understand that it doesn't understand that it really can't be. They don't really touch on that like idea of like all the Christmases that you probably thought were perfect to other people, they probably weren't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're a kid, so you probably remember a Christmas where you got like everything you fucking wanted and you're like, that was amazing. And you have no idea that there was like a huge row going between this person and that person the whole time, or, you know, shit that just flew over your little kid head.
Yeah.
They don't really touch on that. He just watches the old home videos in the attic, which I love that he's just like got chilly up there, so he dressed up essentially in old lady clothes to sit and watch the movies, and it's just like,
I mean, fur coat and a hat and gloves.
Yeah.
It's just keeping warm. What I don't get is why you would set like I understand you got to do it for the gag, but setting that up on the ladder,
yeah, really.
like.
That was like you realize that that's what's happening only just before it happens, which I guess makes it like that's better than if you had like known from the beginning. Like, what is he doing? Why is he sitting there? He's just gonna fall.
Yeah.
So it's like when it's a surprise, you're just like, oh, haha, and then it's only when you think about it later that you're like, wait, yeah, why would you ever do that? But at least in the moment, you're just like, oh, what a dope.
Okay, real quick, can we talk about the turkey?
Yeah, that was a little gross.
It was extremely gross. And like having now cooked a turkey,
Yeah. Are you afraid now
I'm confused.
as to how it got that bad? I mean, obviously that's the joke. It's over the top. Like it took me a second to realize what they was like getting at.
Yeah.
It wasn't until Clark said like it's just a little dry that I realized like what the gag was. Like, oh, it's like so dry, it's like completely dehydrated, and it's like
Yeah.
okay. Because at first I was like, it's an alien.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The way that it like and opened and shit and had
And
like tendrils.
steams coming
Yeah,
out.
and it was just so creepy looking, and I was just like, I don't recall this. Is this like a crazy ass dream sequence?
Yeah.
Where it's like, alien turkey, everyone run! Or something. And then it was like, oh, okay. It's like, I told you we left it in there too long, or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever she says. And it was
Yeah.
like, okay, it's just like a absurdly over dry turkey, like comedically absurd.
Yeah.
Like, okay. But yeah, I was definitely on that boat of like, what the fuck is wrong with it?
Yeah.
Like this is so gross looking.
That's not a turkey.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't
It
know
was
what
like,
you bought.
where did
but-
this come from?
Ugh.
Because Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did lead to what is probably the noisiest dinner sequence where no one talks.
Yeah, right. It's just that like sweeping, like circling shot of everybody as they're like crunching on this turkey.
With like turkey jerky.
Even worse than jerky, it seemed. Like,
yeah.
like jerky
Turkey-
doesn't crunch.
turkey
You know what I mean?
crisps.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Turkey crisps. What's great about this movie too is that it's like it has so many like really kind of like broad slapstick comedy moments, you know what I mean? Like obviously when he's up in the attic and he keeps stepping on those beams that come up and whack him in the face.
Yes.
Stuff like the tree, like when he cuts it open, you know.
Feet through the ceiling.
Yeah, feet through the ceiling. I was going to say stapling his arm to the
Yes.
gutter and falling off it. That moment where he's just trying to get a handle on the ladder from behind, where he like doesn't understand where to put his hands. He's like, like how do I do this so I can get back to the other side? Like all those kinds of like physical comedy moments are all really great. And then there's just so much like way subtler than I thought you would get from a movie like that. Like I was completely fine and willing and happy with like broad slapstick Christmas comedy goofiness. One thing I loved was fucking like I guess calling it subtle might be a little bit much, but it's just the fact that there's not really any attention drawn to it other than what the character is doing. The fact that Eddie won't stop just like slamming huge bags of dog food into the cart when they're out shopping, to the point that he's like, for one, he's getting like 7 bags of dog food.
Yeah.
And 2, he keeps like crushing things that Clark puts on top of the other, because Clark grabs something.
Yeah.
As Eddie's grabbing a bag, and Clark puts it on top of the bag, and then Eddie's just like and smashes it completely. But they're talking about Christmas, you know, and he's like, oh, you know, we want to help you out with the kids and you know, get your kids some presents and whatever, and help you guys out and everything. So all of that dialogue is happening over Eddie taking just like absurd amounts of dog food.
Yes. Like way too many 30-pound bags
Yeah.
of dog food
Like-
for one Rottweiler.
Yeah, it's so funny. And then the other thing that like it's not necessarily like groundbreaking joke, but something about it is like so hysterical and wholesome and goofy is Aunt Bethany,
Yes.
who is I gotta get her name because she's special. Mae Questel. She's the original Betty Boop.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fun.
Like she is like Hollywood royalty lady, you know, coming to play the goofy aunt in this movie, which is like so wonderful. But like her bits, I mean, obviously the whole thing of like, oh, she wrapped up her cat and,
Yeah.
and she wrapped up the Jello as well. Like this one's leaking.
Yeah.
Like tastes like lime, which
There's
is so
cat food in the Jello.
yeah, right. Like she's totally insane. But just the sweetest and funniest goddamn thing in this movie is her saying grace
Yes.
and just saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and everyone just being like, "Okay,"
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that is like that's such a perfect like dysfunctional American family movie moment. You know what I mean? Where it's just like we're doing it wrong, but we're doing it together.
Yeah.
You know, like there's something so heartwarming and hysterical and just like goofy as hell
Yeah. And then
about that. And then the national anthem at the end
Yes.
is also
Oh.
perfect, where everyone's just like, yep, hand over heart
and
and
the cops
finishing.
join in. Like, oh,
and Eddie salutes
Yes.
and everything. Like they go all in on it because it's like, well, it's happening and let's do this.
Yeah.
Like that's so sweet. I think as a character moment for everybody where it's like nobody really gets mad at her. You know, there's never the like, oh, this old bat, like let's dump her in a dumpster or something. You know, nobody treats her like shit.
Yeah.
Or anything. It's just like she's the batty old aunt that sometimes does goofy stuff, but we love her, so we'll do the goofy stuff with her.
One of my favorite lines was directed at her though.
Oh.
It was, you couldn't hear a dump truck driving through a nitroglycerin plant.
That's right.
Like,
That's a good one.
Oh, what a great visual.
What a great old person insult.
Right.
Like old person to old person. Like like a young person saying that to an old person. It's like, hey.
Respect your elders.
Yeah, I mean, not even that case. Just like, hey, come on. It's not like you're suffering from anything like that. So leave them alone. But like an old person insulting another old person with that is a hysterical joke.
Yeah.
Randy Quaid as Eddie is so like not underappreciated because it's famous as hell. Like Cousin Eddie is such a classic character.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I really like him in this because he's still Randy Quaid playing this character. Like there's a sequel to this movie that we technically own because it's on the second disc of that Jack Frost that we did earlier in the month. But there's a Christmas Vacation 2, which is like Eddie's Island Adventure or something.
Okay.
Where it's him and his wife, still played by the same woman, and their family and shit. I'm sure it's terrible.
Oh,
you know what I mean? And
I'm
it's
sure.
like, it's one of those things where it's like, I love him playing Eddie in everything, except probably the one movie where he's the point of the movie, and that's sort of hysterical. It's like it's the definition of a great supporting character.
Yes,
you know what I mean. And the way he shows up in all of those movies, honestly, I think I might like him in Vegas Vacation the best, just because of some of the antics that he gets into in that movie specifically. Obviously, we're not going to go into it because we're not talking about that movie. But this one I feel like is the one that most people think of when they think of Cousin Eddie. They think immediately of the Shitter's Full.
I'd like to get something nice for you.
Oh God, yeah, that is so like that is such a classic Eddie moment of like thinking he's doing good, of like, and I want to get you something real nice, Clark, without thinking for a second that it's like you're using his, like he's paying for it, you idiots. Like, you're getting him something nice with his money. Way to go, Ed.
Yeah.
But he's real proud of it. He's just like, oh, we're gonna do that, and it's gonna be great.
It's like little kid me being excited to buy my mom a gift with the $20 she gave me. Like,
yeah, right. Like, oh man, get yourself something nice. You know, I didn't necessarily forget about the whole like kind of ending to it because there really is like a thing that ends the movie. You know, it's not just a case of like, and they eventually figure out that Christmas is great and they love each other. But I saw one part of it coming. Like I knew that it ended with the cops. I knew the cops showed up and stormed the place. Yeah. Forgot that it was all set to Santa Claus is coming to town. Or Here Comes Santa Claus. Yeah. Specific. They're different songs.
Yes.
But set to Here Comes Santa Claus, which I was like, this is the funniest fucking thing I've seen in a long time. It's like I totally forgotten that the song was involved. And that really made it. Yeah. But I did forget that Eddie kidnaps his boss and brings him to the house. Totally forgot about that. But I saw it coming because I saw Eddie think of that. Yeah. Did you know? Like, I'm sure it was obvious. Like, it wasn't like I saw a secret thing that no one else saw. But that moment when Clark says all that stuff about like, I wish he was here right now so I could do all this stuff to him. And then Eddie just gives this little like, huh, and then bolts. Yeah. And it's like, oh shit, that's
He's
right.
going to kidnap that boss.
Yeah, he's totally going to kidnap that guy. That's so funny. And Ellen saying it's our first kidnapping is so good because that's a reference to the first movie. She says something along the lines of like, "This is our first gun," or something when they're holding up John Candy. But yeah, that whole kidnapping thing is hysterical, and obviously it kind of has to end how it ends, where you know like Clark was getting fucked over by his company, and now the boss sees how bad that was, and everything's going to go well, and he's going to get a bonus, an even bigger bonus than last year, and everything's super swell. And I was like, It's a true fantasy. The idea of any boss being able to change their view on something like that, or it's like, let me see, I'm saving the company money and probably making myself more money, but this jackass whose name I never remember is sad this Christmas because of it. Let me think. Do I give a fuck? Nope. Like that's real life. That's what an actual boss would do.
Yeah.
Like of some sort of company like that. They just be
Yeah.
like, oh, are you upset about that? I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know? So it is a little like, I mean, obviously that's like the super cynical way to look at it, but it really is like while you're watching it, you're like, this is pure fantasy.
Yeah. This is not corporate America.
Yeah. Like that is not even close to anything that would happen. Like, I guess I'm glad they didn't go with the ironic of like, hey, everything is super great and wonderful, and then when the cops show up, him being like, arrest him or something like, you know, like arrest Clark or whatever. So it's better that he like learns a lesson.
Yeah.
But it's also just like completely and utterly unrealistic. Like, it never ever happened in the history of the world. Like his specific lines too. You know what I mean? Where it's like, this is what's actually important. It's like, yeah, no, nobody in that position thinks like that. They just don't.
Yeah.
But that fucking, the whole, like, his wife calling the cops so the SWAT shows up, and they even bust into the neighbor's house for some reason. Totally forgot about that, too.
Vantage point? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. But, like, that was hysterical, the whole thing. And the fact that it's just, like, immediately called off. Where he's just like, wait, no, everything's fine. And so they're like, oh, well, we did all this damage and busted in all these windows and shit. But now they're just like, whatever. We'll just go home. Nobody's in trouble.
Hang on, we gotta sing the national anthem real quick.
Yeah, for some reason.
Old lady started singing, everyone's chimed in, and just felt right.
Yeah. You know, another thing that I absolutely forgot, like I remember obviously the whole Eddie dumping the toilet into the sewer drain. And I knew that whole bit about like, oh, and then there's this like noxious gas or whatever.
Forgot that it glowed green.
Well, no, not necessarily, but I forgot like what all of that was building to. And then the fact that it was like, oh, right, the Santa sleigh and reindeer that he knocked over at the beginning when he freaked out is in the trash on the curb right by there. So when it does go up in flames, it shoots it into the sky. And okay, that's right. I had totally forgotten about all of that. If that didn't happen, I never would have questioned. I wouldn't have been like, this movie was missing something.
Yeah.
Not many people can have a freak out with a smile on their face like Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
It seems like a trademark thing of his, of where it's just like freaking out, but the eyes are bright and the smile is wide, but he's saying things like fuck yourself or like, you know, something super angry and
using a chainsaw against his banister.
That's right. I forgot about that.
I totally related to that. I was like, I've been at that point where it's like this is a tiny little problem that is easily solved with like a screw and some paint. But
I'd rather
fuck it. I'm just chopping it off. That's it. Problem's gone.
Yeah.
Never have that problem again.
I read that the scene where Clark has that freak out and he uses like 30 adjectives in a row to describe his boss and all that, that the people that are facing him, the actors that were facing him, had words written on sheets of paper around their necks. Hanging in front of them
for him to like pull from.
So he could just like be looking at the family and not like looking at like a sheet of paper or like a cue card off for, you know, it's like just look at the people because they're wearing the words, just fucking pick them and yell them and all that shit. Like that's hysterical. I love that kind of stuff.
That is fucking brilliant.
Yeah, right. I love that shit.
And there were enough people for him to have plenty of words.
Oh yeah. And then I think one of my favorite bits, other than something that I just came across, I just wrote all those idiots doing a drum roll. That was hysterical.
That
just
was
like
the
a bunch of morons, like blah, 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 blah. Like what is that? Like it's absurd for Clark to ask for it. Like it's such the like overbearing person thing to do. You know what I mean? Like that's a super like you know who and this is gonna seem non sequitur, but you know who I saw a lot of in Clark in this movie? And I guess it's really more the opposite because in terms of like influencing, so much Bob Belcher.
Yes.
from Bob's Burgers. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like the camping episode. Like, we got to go out. We got to do it.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. Like, we got to do it because we're supposed to.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of feeling to it. And that moment had that same kind of thing where it's like, why would you ask these idiots to do that for you?
Yeah.
It's only going to sound stupid. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Bob asking his kids to give him a drum roll would end it in the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like blah, 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 blah. Like, it's just this bunch of morons. And then later somebody does it too. Like, or they're about to, or something with something else.
She asked.
Doesn't Ellen ask? Like,
Yeah.
you want me to drum roll this?
Yeah.
Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, no. That is absolutely hysterical. But the one sequence that I like pretty much knew completely, you know, like there was other stuff where I was like, oh, that was a surprise, or like, oh, I forgot about that little bit. But the one little sequence that was like, yep, okay, I've at least seen this a billion times is Clark and the sled. Where he puts the new fucking like additive on the sled to make it like super frictionless, and so he just goes 1,000 fucking miles an hour. I forgot how absurd it gets immediately.
Yeah.
I thought there was like a little bit of buildup
Yeah.
of like, oh geez, he's going kind of fast, and then he speeds up, but it's literally like the second he hits the snow, he's going the speed of light.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely absurd, and I love it. And the fact that that's that whole sequence.
Yeah.
It doesn't lead to anything.
Nope.
There's nothing else to it. It's literally just fucking Clark
Yeah.
screaming down a hill and over a highway and like through all this shit into a parking lot. All that kind of junk
Yeah.
is so damn funny. And I like that Eddie finds it
Yeah.
later. He's just like looking through it where the fucking hole has been burned in it. Like, oh, geez.
This was absolutely my favorite movie of the month.
Oh, for sure.
It could possibly be my top movie of 2020.
Yeah, I mean, considering this is the last one, I guess that would be something to think of. I mean, it's definitely one of probably the most classic. I mean, it depends on what you're looking at
Yeah,
it from too,
it's-
because I mean, you know, we had both seen what's it called? Breakfast Club a bunch, and it's like that technically might be like the best movie we've done, you know, like
I was
specifically.
specifically saying like my favorite of the new movies that I've seen this year, which are a lot
Yeah,
because most of these were new to me.
for sure.
Looking back at the year, I am gonna have to definitively say, oh no, maybe not definitively because Bernie was fucking
Yeah,
awesome.
I just looked at that and I was like,
Also-
Bernie's a great movie.
Also the Polka King.
I
know
mean, I put
that's-
Bernie above that, but yeah,
Well,
definitely.
the Polka
Both still
King
great.
is
and
one
fun.
of our top episodes.
For
so,
some reason.
Yeah, everyone seems to love that one.
Yeah.
Or one person really loves it and listens to it a bunch.
It all depends on what your vibe is, because
Yeah.
it's like fucking Demolition Man is an amazing ride, but it's still Demolition Man. You know what I mean? Like there's no way that it's not a goofy ass,
Yeah.
ridiculous action movie from the 90s. Like it's not really gonna stack up, but oh boy.
Yeah.
It's a fun one. But yeah, I think that is gonna wrap it up for, well, actually, let's go in order. So it wraps it up for this episode.
Mm-hmm.
It wraps it up for Christmas Movies Month.
Yep.
And it wraps it up for 2020.
Yep.
For Popcorn for Dinner, which is pretty neat.
The year that took 32 months.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. It's so funny, too, looking back at all of these and being like, that moment was when it started. Because I
Mhm.
still remember we were watching, or we were doing the episode for Twilight.
Yep.
We were doing episode
Yes.
33, 40 episodes ago.
Oh my god.
We were literally like, I could go back and get that audio of when I got the call from work saying, hey, remember that week that you took off? It's going to be longer. You can like kind of hear it on the mics and stuff because I'm talking
Yeah.
on the phone while we were sitting here because it was like right in the middle of recording.
Yep.
It's just so funny.
I remember listening and being like, oh,
Like, yeah, right. Like, holy
Oh,
shit,
here we go.
that's insane. But yeah, I mean, we don't even have an idea necessarily for what we're going to do for the first month of 2021. I don't necessarily see any reason for us to do anything like crazy, you know? It's like just keep moving right along, man. Keep watching fun movies and talking about them. That's the whole point.
yeah. If you have any recommendations, let us know.
Yeah, throw them out, man. We have a few month ideas that we have some movies for that we can whip out
in our back pocket.
Yeah, exactly, when need be. But we will get into that when we get into that. But it's been a fun year and a fun month, and hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas. This is Jeff.
And Kelly.
Later, dudes.